Look, I'm just like you guys. I wanted to buy a Sony FX3. It's the dream camera. A lot of my favorite creators use it. It's Netflix approved. It has a 12 megapixel sensor, a dual base ISO of 12,800, which basically allows this camera to see in the dark. It's an amazing camera, and there's still so many cameras competing. Canon R6V and the Nikon ZR, to be exact, are the two cameras that come in mind to try to fight it for a lower price. However, I think if you're looking towards a Sony FX3, I think the Sony a7v, which is the camera I'm shooting on right now, is actually going to be better for you than those options, and actually might be better for you than the FX3. Again, as of right now, the Sony FX3 I'm looking at Best Buy is still almost $4,000 after tax. So for about $1,000 cheaper, I'm here to tell you there are actually a lot of reasons why you should get the a7v over the FX3, regardless of the price difference. And look, by no means do I think the a7v is just an overall better camera than the FX3. There's a reason the FX3 still exists. But I think for most of us, and probably if you're looking at this video, the a7v is actually just a better camera for most of our cases than the FX3, unless you are a full-fledged professional. I'm assuming if you watch this video, there's probably a good chance you're looking to upgrade to a full frame camera. And for that reason, I think the a7v is just superior to the FX3 for that reason alone. If you're going to upgrade to a full frame camera, I think the FX3 for most people just doesn't make sense. In my opinion, there are 5 main pillars of why people gravitate towards the FX3. One is the fact that it uses full frame E-mount lenses. Number 2 is the fact that it has a full frame sensor, which is allowed to capture a lot more detail and to get better depth of field. 3 is obviously its insane low light performance. 4, it's the mounting and rigging options. And number 5 is the cooling, because the FX3 does have a built-in fan. But to be 100% honest, I think that a7v keeps up with the FX3 in almost every single category. And even though it's better, you still also get to keep an extra grand in your pocket if you decide to go with the a7v. So let's talk about the 5 pillars. Pillar 1, E-mount lenses. Yes, the a7v is an E-mount camera, obviously. It's another Sony mirrorless camera. This came out last year in 2025, and it uses E-mount full-frame lenses. Okay, so that's easy. Number 1's gone. Any lenses used on the FX3 are 100% compatible on the a7v. Number 2 is the full-frame sensor. The full-frame sensor of the FX3 is a 12 megapixel sensor that has a really fast readout speed at about 8 milliseconds for all I know. In other words, you just have no rolling shutter, really. The a7v has a 33 megapixel sensor. It has about 20 millisecond readout speed. So if the readout speed matters to you that much, then yes, the a7v is not going to keep up with the FX3. However, I'd argue that not many people give that much of a shit about rolling shutter, unless you're a professional. But the a7v doesn't have bad rolling shutter by any means necessary. It just definitely has more than the FX3. The other thing the FX3 has is 4K uncropped 120 FPS, which is a very, very big feature of the FX3. However, the a7v can only do 4K 60 uncropped and 4K 120 with a crop. And although this sounds bad on paper, it does make sense. The reason being is that the FX3 uses a 12 megapixel sensor, which less megapixels is less data. The a7v has a 33 megapixel sensor, which obviously has more data. So to do 120 FPS on that, I definitely had to crop into the sensor, because yes, it takes more processing power for a 33 megapixel sensor to do 120 FPS. So they crop it down so it can kind of keep up with the FX3. And to some people, this might suck to have a crop on 120 FPS. A 4K 60 cropped is a deal breaker. However, the 4K 60 here is not cropped. And I think most people are not using a 4K 120 anyway. And personally, when I use 4K 120 on my a7v, which I've used it maybe 3 times, I actually kind of like the extra crop, because most of the time I'm using 120 FPS shot, I'm going for super slow-mo and I'm getting a close-up of the subject, so the extra crop makes sense for me. However, if you decide that yes, 4K 120 uncropped is what I absolutely need, then yes, go with the FX3. But I just don't think it makes sense for a lot of people to actually care that much about 120 FPS uncropped. Most people are going to be using 4K 60, because 4K 120 just doesn't make much sense for most people to decide whether it's a deal breaker or not. Obviously, the a7v has some benefits to having a 33 megapixel sensor. The 33 megapixels is amazing for photos and even video, because if you decide to crop in on your video, you have way more detail in your video if you decide to crop in. That can't be said exactly about the FX3, because 12 megapixels isn't even half of 33. There's also the benefit of the sensor, the a7v being newer. The thing is about the a7v, the sensor is also partially stacked, which allows it to do crazy things in the photo mode. It's allowed to shoot 30 frames a second plus 60-second pre-capture, and it has a mechanical shutter, which is the things you're trading off just for a cropped 120 FPS, which is to me a lot more benefits having the a7v over the 4K 120 crop, which to me all these extra benefits of the a7v sensor, especially the new autofocus, which is way more worth to have than 4K 120 uncropped on the FX3. Third thing is low light performance. Yes, overall, the FX3 is still gonna have better low light performance than the a7v. The FX3 was made to shoot in low light. However, again, you are saving $1,000, but I do not think by any case are you getting $1,000 less quality in low light performance. Most of the time, 33 megapixels means a lot of megapixels, which generates a lot of noise. But the thing is, the base ISO on the a7 V is 8,000 now, which is extremely high. Although I don't have an FX3, from what I've seen online comparing the a7 V and the FX3, for still about $1,000+ more, I don't think it's $1,000 improvement of low light performance. I've shot amazing clips in low light with the a7 V, and I continue to do that because most of the time I think a lower aperture matters more than the body itself. And the thing is, with the same money that you bought with the a7 V, instead of going FX3, you can buy a prime 1.4 and solve your problem with low light instantaneously for the 4,000 ISO gap, which again is not even a whole stop of light. And again, I'm putting these side by side right now in B-roll, but you can tell they're not that much different. In fact, I think the a7 V, again, for being a lot cheaper, does remarkably well. I've had no problems with it in low light, and I'm always impressed by its low light performance, considering it's not marketed as a low light camera. Number 4 is the mounting and rigging options. Yes, the FX3 has built-in quarter threads. It can't compete. But again, if you're saving $1,000 on the FX3, you're gonna have money to buy a cage on the a7 V. And the truth is, unless you're a serious cinematographer or a super serious videographer where you need XLR mics plugged in, if you're not that and you're just a guy trying to make YouTube videos or just create some basic videography gigs, nothing super professional, all you got is a simple shotgun mic and a monitor, I think for the most part the a7 V is still great. The only real thing the FX3 still has over the a7 V is that XLR handle, but recently Sony revealed there's a new XLR handle that's coming with the new a7R6 that is also compatible with the a7 V, allowing for 32-bit audio, which I don't even think the FX3 has right now. So the a7 V actually has 32-bit audio now with the new XLR handle. Yeah, and yeah, it's an extra purchase, but you can afford the extra purchase with the extra $1,000 you just saved. So if you think about it that way, the a7 V still wins in that category. However, I do think if you decide to mount it even more than you need a cage, even though I think a cage solves most people's problems, then yeah, go with FX3. But I think for the majority of videographers, you don't need anything more than what the cage can offer. So at number 5, it's the last one. It's the fact that the FX3 has built-in cooling. It has a built-in fan that, yes, is definitely going to be better than the a7 V for longer takes. However, what longer takes are you going to be doing to justify the fact you need a fan? And again, is that worth $1,000 to you is the question. Personally, for me, the a7 V has never overheated once. And again, I've been shooting like a lot of long form videos on my YouTube, I even on a podcast. Our podcast was almost like 40 minutes. Almost for that time, I have not experienced a single overheating issue, yet alone has my camera even gotten warm. It's just never been. And I've looked again online to see what other people have said about the a7 V. And the truth of the matter is, I bought this camera over the ZV-E1 specifically because of the photo side and also for the fact that this doesn't overheat like the ZV-E1. The ZV-E1 is known to overheat. However, the a7 V has had no problems overheating. In fact, most people that I've seen online has ran a full 2 hours and only the battery has died in the camera before it overheated. And to me, that's good enough. And that's the 5 reasons that's competing with the FX3 and doing a really good job at fighting it, considering it's a lot cheaper. But let's talk about the fact that it's also just better than the FX3 in a lot of ways. So first off, it was the better autofocus. We got a brand new chip in here that's way more efficient on battery and better autofocus, which is the Bionz XR2. In my opinion, the a7 V just has amazing battery life, and yes, it's definitely better than the FX3 because of this new processor. And the better autofocus is obviously a nice plus. Again, it's a lot cheaper and you're getting better autofocus and better battery life. Like, isn't that great already? The second thing I said is obviously it's better for photos. It has a higher megapixel count so you can crop in later. It also has a mechanical shutter, which the FX3 doesn't have. It also has a photo and video switch, and it can shoot 30 frames a second of raw photos. Does that not even sound a little bit insane to you that can do that with no blackout frames? And it has rated of 7.5 stops of IBIS. And the FX3 only has 5 stops of IBIS, which is so on handheld, the FX3 is going to be worse than the a7 V. And again, the a7 V is looking a lot better. And the truth of the matter is, I do think the FX3 is a great camera still. I just think the a7 V is just way better for the price for a lot of people. And specifically if you're just like me and you're just trying to start content or just make videos in general and you have no idea where the scope of this is going to go. The fact that this is also a really good photo camera for photo gigs just makes it way more practical than the FX3, which just doesn't have a mechanical shutter. And I keep grinding the fact in, but it's a cheaper camera too. So yes, I do think the FX3 is a great camera, and I still would love to get an FX3. However, if you ask me right now if I could go back in time and buy an FX3 instead of a7 V, I wouldn't. The FX3 is just an old camera now. So buying the FX3 right now just doesn't make sense to a lot of people, especially when the FX3 Mark II should have open gate, hopefully, and 6K recording. These things will definitely make the original FX3 not very convincing of a buy. And the thing is, with the a7v and the ZV-E1, it makes the FX3 even less of an appealing buy to most people. So yeah, this is just my little PSA to why I think the a7v is actually an underrated camera. Because if you're just an average person looking to the FX3 because it's considered the best, but actually don't need those features the FX3 has, such as being able to rig it up super well, or the slight bit in advantage of a fact that it has a cooling fan and a bit better low light performance, then yeah, go FX3. But if you can sacrifice those things for a better photo setup and even better AI processing and saving $1,000, a7v is for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, follow for more. I'm gonna make more videos about my cameras and stuff, but yeah, vlogs are coming soon too. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. See ya. Peace.